Mesopotamians were the first astronomers to make long-term written records. Observation towers called ziggurats were pyramid-like structures with 7 terraces, each representing one of the celestial bodies: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Egyptians used astronomy for practical reasons. They used it to predict the floods of the Nile, also to align the temples and monuments like the Great Pyramid, the Sphinx, and the temples of Amun-Ra and Karnak. Is an area of land with 83 stones that are believed to be a calendar of 360 days using astrological signs to help predict the seasons. The Chinese were the first to record eclipses and noticed a pattern. They also observed Halley's Comet. Thales was a Malaysian astronomer who predicted the solar eclipse a century before it happened during the battle between the Lydians and the Persians. Pythagoras developed a model of the solar system that included 2 features that marked a permanent break from the previous thinking about the universe. He believed the Earth evolved around a center flame, and the sun and the moon did as well. Babylonians were able to use long records and observation to see regularities and patterns in the motion of the moons and planets. They developed astrology, which is the belief that celestial objects influence the events on the Earth. Aristotle accepted the ideas of Exodus but modified it with even more concrete spheres. He argued that all celestial motion must be circular because circular motion is the only kind of motion that can repeat forever. He applied geometry to astronomy, showing that it is possible to use geometry to find the distance to the moon and the relative distance and size of the sun and the moon. He developed the method of finding the circumference of the Earth. He used the latitude and longitude lines of Alexandria and Senia to figure out the circumference of the Earth. Hippocrates also developed a new way of determining the diameter and width of the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon using Eratosthenes' method. Mayans were able to predict many eclipses in the planet's alignment using their complex calendar they created using the configurations of the stars. Other major accomplishment was the completion of the system that could accurately account for the motion of the planets using a combination of regular circular motion. Also, he invented a magnitude system that is the method of describing stars still used today. A lot of the text written in Arabic was written by astronomers that were not. Many of them sought the knowledge of the Greek astronomers like Aristotle and Ptolemy. They also had instruments that measured the positioning of celestial objects. Copernicus was the first to propose the fully developed heliocentric model of the solar system that we are now learning in schools today.
Brahe, born 1546 in Sweden. He made important contributions by devising the most precise instruments available before the telescope for observing the stars. Galileo, born in Italy, 1564. They say he is responsible for putting together modern-day astronomy. Found 4 moons that circle Jupiter, known as the Galilean moons. First to see craters on the moon, track the phases of Venus, gave evidence that the Earth is not the center of the universe. Kepler, born December 27, 1571 in Germany, discovered 3 major laws of planetary motion. 1. The planets move in elliptical orbits with the sun at one focus. 2. The time necessary to traverse in any arc of a planetary orbit is proportional to the area of the sector between the central body and arc. 3. There is an exact relationship between the squares of the planets' periodic times and the cubes of the radii of their orbit. Isaac Newton, born 1642, English scientist, he found three important laws of motion. First law, an object will remain at rest or in uniform motion until acted upon by an external force. The second law, the acceleration of an object as produced by a net force is directly proportional to the magnitude of the net force in the same direction as the net force and inversely proportional to the mass of the object. His third law, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Edmund Halley, born November 8, 1656, first to calculate the orbit of a comet later named after him. Albert Einstein, born 1879, Germany, came up with E equals mc squared. Nobel Prize winner for physics in 1921 for his theory of photoelectric effect, came up with the theory of relativity. Niels Bohr, born 1885, he was a physicist who made foundational contributions to understanding atomic structure, quantum theory, for which he received the Nobel Prize in Physics for in 1922, made the Bohr model of the atom. Wolfgang Pauli, born 1900, Nobel Prize winner for physics for his discovery in 1925 of the Pauli exclusion principle, which states that in an atom no two electrons can occupy the same quantum state simultaneously. Werner Heisenberg came up with the theory of quantum mechanics, published in 1925 when he was only 23 years old. For this theory and the applications of it, which resulted especially in the discovery of other forms of hydrogen, he was awarded Nobel Prize in 1932 for physics. Edwin Hubble revolutionized cosmology by providing that the clouds of light astronomers saw in the night sky were actually other galaxies beyond our Milky Way. His great discovery in 1929 when he identified a galaxy's distance and the speed in which it was moving. George Lemaitre discovered the Big Bang Theory in 1949. Robert Oppenheimer developed atomic bomb in World War II. Chairman of General Advisory Committee of the Atomic Energy Commission in 1949, opposed the development of the hydrogen bomb, and he later realized he made a huge mistake. Fred Hoyle, English astronomer noted primarily for the theory of stellar nucleosynthesis and his often controversial stance on other scientific matters, in particular his rejection of the Big Bang Theory. Penzias and Wilson. In 1965, Penzias and Wilson were testing a sensitive horn antenna which was designed for detecting low levels of microwave radiation. They discovered cosmic microwave background radiation. Armstrong and Aldrin were a part of Apollo 11, which was the first flight to land on the moon. They were also the first people to step on the moon on July 20th, 1969.